when, how they did it, when they did it, the explosives they used, the divers they used. It goes into a fair amount of detail.
Incredible detail.
Yeah. I mean,
you're laying out a theory.
Down to what explosives, right?
But you're trying to put what you just said, which is basically you inventing a story, on the same level as Hirsch's story.
Yeah, theory.
Yeah, I understand. But he actually has a lot of detail in his story.
Yeah, he had umpteen sources. There was a lot of people that were willing to tell this story.
No, I don't think that's actually the case. I don't think he has umpteen sources. And there's no, on the record,
there was one main source. There was one main source,
yeah.
But who provided a ton of detail. I don't know exactly how much he was able to directly corroborate with other sources. I don't know that.
The other thing I wonder, Sachs, is he, with this one source story, he has a collaboration with the New Yorker, and anybody would, if this was a really well-sourced and you could back it up kind of story, they would love to have the ratings for this story. This is a blockbuster story.
Or as happens a long time, which we learned, was it through the Valerie Plame affair, which is that these major news publications will sometimes have a back channel back to the national security apparatus when they have something like this. And the message was, you can't hit print on this.
Yeah,
in which case,
that's a possibility too.
He goes and just self-publishes himself, which wasn't really even an option a few years ago.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the Rorschach test of Rorschach tests. You have the media, you got the CIA.
It's fodder for a great movie.
What I go back to, Jay Cal, is I think you can lay out some theories about, let's say, the Poles did it, or maybe Ukrainians with the British or something. Yes, you could lay out those theories, but the media wasn't willing to entertain any of those theories when this news broke. What did they do? They blamed the Russians. And that story made no sense, but they said it so definitively.
I'm looking for the source on that. I'm looking for, Nick, if you could pull up the source of the administration blaming the Russians. I just want to make sure we're accurate.
Biden did it at a press conference.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
it
we
was
actually
an
have
act of sabotage by the Russians. Now, they didn't push it that hard. What was interesting is the Biden administration said it, but they didn't keep coming back to it. But the media really ran with it. And when people on both the left and the right, like people like Jeffrey Sachs on the left and Tucker Carlson on the right, basically started to question whether the U.S. could have done it. They were accused of being conspiracy theorists and, Putin stooges and all the rest of it. And now all of a sudden, here comes Seymour Hersh with a pretty detailed story lending credence to that point of view.
Yeah.
It just may indicate we don't know everything that's going on with this war. And I think the longer this goes on, the more dangerous it is.
Freeberg, you have any thoughts on geopolitical issues and who might have blown up Nord Stream? What are your sources saying, Freeberg? What are your sources in Science Quarter saying?
Speculation is best left to the future. I don't know about the whole speculating on what could have been done in the past by someone. Those are conspiracy theories and a little dangerous.
No, they're not actually conspiracy theories.
I'm saying
Nord Stream was blown up. You understand that, right? Like, there's no doubt. I'm saying
Jay Cal's theory.
Oh yeah, Jay Cal's theory is just a story.
I think you got to bring data to the table.
Yeah, pure theory, pure speculation.
You got to bring data to the table to make it a.
By the way, speaking of which, Radek Sikorski, who is a Polish diplomat, I think he was like their foreign minister. When Nord Stream blew up, he tweeted a photo of it saying, "Thank you, USA."
Oh.
Which was one of the reasons why people thought that, okay, of course the U.S. did it. Who has the capability to do it? Who has the motive to do it? Who said they were going to do it? And who benefits?
Ukraine.
Cui bono. Who benefits?
Who was conducting NATO exercises in that region?
Right.
3 months before the thing blew up.
Yeah, exactly. And Jeffrey Sachs pointed that out on, I think it was a CNBC interview before they basically stopped him because he's not allowed to talk about this on, network TV apparently. But he basically pointed out there were like U.S. radar signatures in the area.
President Joe Biden declared that, this is from Bloomberg, that a massive leak from the Nord Stream gas pipeline system in the Baltic Sea was an intentional act and that the Russian statements about the incident shouldn't be trusted. It was a deliberate act of sabotage, and now the Russians are pumping out disinformation and lies, Biden told reporters Friday at the White House. So he didn't exactly say the Russians did it. He just said it's an act of,
the media
don't believe
did
the Russians.
Cal.
What's that?
The media did. You could do one of these montages where it was like Russian sabotage. In fact, go to Matt Taibbi's
But just to be
blog.
clear, Biden didn't say it was sabotage. He said it was an act of sabotage.
If you actually look at what Biden said, everything he said is absolutely true if the U.S. also did it.
Correct.
He may have wanted to be circumspect.
Every single sentence that Joe Biden said is 100% true, whether we did it or whether Russia did it.
It was a deliberate act of sabotage, in parentheses, by us.
Think about it. If we did it, we know they didn't do it. And then we have to be like careful about suggesting they did it.
Well, what do the Germans think? Because this is the Germans' pipeline. So if we blew it up, that's also explain to me your thinking on the chessboard of our relationship with Germany. If we blew it up, would they not also see that as a hostile act?
This is why I asked if Europe knew, because I think you have to tell Germany that it's going to happen. And I think the quid pro quo with Germany is some amount of guaranteed supply that the U.S. directs into Europe so that they know that their long-term LNG supply is intact, so that they become ambivalent, right? There's a point of indifference where the Germans say, okay, we don't know when this thing is going to get turned back on, and we don't know what the implications of it are. Here's what our demands are, meaning our energy supply, our energy needs are. And so as long as the United States can say, look, worst case, we have stuff in the, SPR that we can give you, there's probably a point of indifference where the Germans say, okay, we're just going to turn around and not say anything. And I'm curious, did the Germans say anything when this happened?
No, not that I know of.
I'm looking for I was literally just typed to Nick, what was the Germans' position on this? Because
that's interesting too. That's a tell.
Well, yeah, if you're breaking this down like a poker hand, we're trying to figure out.
If you construct this hand, right, pre-flop, it's like, where both of these folks are, right?
Okay, there was a really interesting video that a guy named Matt Orfalia, who puts together these really funny videos, he puts together these montages of media reactions to things. And what he shows is that, you can have like 20 different media outlets and they all use the exact same words. And when he clips it together, you can see that they're reading from somebody's talking points and it's not really clear who. And basically, if you look at his video here on who blew up Nord Stream pipeline, you see that there was like a party line from the mainstream media on this stuff.
Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that?
I promise you we'll be able to do it.
Someone blew up Russia's Nord Stream pipeline.
I mean, we'd have to conclude
what is this,
without the
Saturday Night Live?
evidence that it's most likely
Russian sabotage on its own infrastructure.
It's a common sense matter.
I think it's Putin's way of sending a message.
What Putin is saying to us by blowing up his pipeline is, look, I can blow up a pipeline.
Everyone knows that Putin did this himself.
Who are these talking heads?
A smoking gun without the direct proof.
Yeah, I think logic and common sense will tell you that
without the evidence,
Russia was behind the incident.
We can say it for sure.
Who sabotaged the Nord Stream 2 pipeline?
All right, enough. This is nonsense.
Come on, that's hysterical.
This is, it's these talking heads who have no firsthand experience, and they're more than willing to comment on this stuff.
It's hysterical.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
All his videos are like that, where he has one on the Hunter Biden laptop as well, where again, he's got like 20 different talking heads and media outlets